welcome back to New Comic Book Day Night Live. We are live from the Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seats group, and we are here to celebrate the Day of New Comics. So welcome, everyone. We have two amazing guests with us this week. We have Emma Kubert, and we have Gofa. Thank you, Gofa. What's up, y'all? Cheers. All right, so we're going to be talking about comics. We're going to be talking about the new ones that we got this week. We're going to be talking about making comics, doing comics, living comics, what makes them so great. So welcome, everyone. First, I want to introduce my two co-hosts. We have Manny Gomez from sunny Florida. What up, dude?
Doing well, man. Florida's not so sunny and warm today. You know, we were cloudy and high in the lower 70s, but I'm loving it. But great day to take a walk and sit on a park bench and read some comics, which is what I did earlier. Beautiful. And just get me in the mood to talk some comics, and I'm ready to go, man.
Hell yeah. That's what I did today too. And our other co-host is Rick Lopez, the man who never stops arting, whose audio is still connecting. Shout out Rick Lopez. What up, dude? All right, so everyone, we got a nice intimate crowd today. So today being New Comic Book Day, what'd you get? Did you get anything new today? Manny, what'd you get, dude?
Oh, I got a bunch of stuff, man. I got Last Ronin, last year's #2.
Got to.
I picked up the new issue of Hulk by Ryan Otley, Justice Society. This new book from Image called The Forged, which is a magazine-sized book. Nice. I had not even heard about it, so I picked it up just based on the art, and I like when comics are kind of an odd size. It's usually kind of a nice surprise to see people messing around with the way the comics are portrayed. So
yeah,
I picked that up. Yeah, and I actually also grabbed Emma's book. I hadn't grabbed it last week, but I grabbed it this week, and that's one of the ones I took to the park bench and read. So
same. And also I picked this up, which has got Al backup in there, dude. This is a great book, and I was like, this was already on my pulse. I was psyched to find you in the back there. Manny was like, you gotta check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. And Kaya, it's synchronicity there that Al did a backup in Kaya, because like Emma's book, it's also a fantasy book, which is something that Ryan Balcom and I have always talked about on his podcast, is that there's not enough fantasy out there in the comic book world. So me and Adam were talking about that too. So hopefully that's a topic we can all discuss, when we get to it. So
that's what they
certainly
say.
Something I want to talk to Emma about. So
they say fantasy is reality in the world today. Who's that? Hall & Oates? Love it. That's my trucking company for my farm where I grow oats. Here's two sweet comics I got. These are Twin Peaks comics that our friend Gilbert makes. They're just absolutely insane. These are issues 5 and 6, I believe. 4 and 5. Yeah, absolutely beautiful, like watercolor covers of Audrey here. Just beautiful stuff on the inside. All different types of genres. He was recently in the Blue Rose magazine, which is like the Twin Peaks fan comic. And you got to send a shout out to the excellent Mike Allred and Peter Milligan.
Yep.
What about you, Emma? Do you get anything new today?
Oof, no, I have a whole stack of comics that are just meant to be read.
Yes.
I draw them instead.
I get you. When does the the to read pile becomes too daunting at some point, and you're just
it's true. I have like a whole closet past the computer over there that's just filled with stuff.
Oh God. Oh man, I feel that, and I just keep getting them for some reason.
I mean, you gotta collect them all,
Exactly. Collect the whole set.
Exactly.
What about you, Al? Did you get anything new today or recently?
Well, I didn't get out today to the store because I've been really busy with the end of my campaign. But I went to the public library lately, and I got a stack of new mangas new titles that I haven't read yet. So I started.
The library is a great resource for comics, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially mangas, because like you can't buy like 40 time. You can't buy all the Berserks. Like you won't have enough money for rent. Right?
Yeah, Al, and you have like what, 24 hours or less left on your Orc Gym?
Yeah, about 20 hours. Yeah, like
Wow.
tomorrow will be the last day. Yeah.
Nice. We're gonna get into that a little bit more. Let's see. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
sure.
Let's kick over to Matt King, who must be very busy shipping out his insane books. I built a new shelf today, and your book's too big for it. There's it. I thought I had a big book with Wizard, but this is the biggest shit ever, dude. Dude, how's it going? You got everything shipped out? How's things going? Oh, hold on. Let me ask you I gotta ask to unmute. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, dude.
Humongous.
Right on.
So how many pages is this? I thought Wizard 2 being 420 pages was big.
Let me just plug in my my headphone here.
All right.
All right.
This has to be like 800 pages or something.
568 pages.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's amazing, dude. Absolutely glorious book here, man.
Thanks,
You guys,
dude.
yeah. You guys got everything shipped? You got everything done now, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, all the U.S. orders went out as of Monday, and I got 2 international orders to go. But yeah, everything's out.
Nice. Al, you'll be there soon, man. Finishing the just the web-based stuff is only half the battle, you know?
Oh yeah, mailing is. Are you mailing everything yourself, Matt, or you're
Yeah.
hiring someone? Yeah.
No,
Okay. Wow.
yeah.
You're brave.
I do it too. You got to add those little personal touches. You know, I'm sure, Al, you might have it on a larger scale or something, but like, you know,
No,
Matt's
I'm
got
just
the
I'm,
little
I'm just
cards and
lazy,
everything.
so I
Whoa!
hired a warehouse in Michigan,
Nice.
and they're doing it. So
Well, that might be helpful too, I guess. You live in Canada, right? Montreal?
yeah, exactly. And the mailing
Nice.
fees are so expensive in Canada. We don't have that media mail services that you guys have.
Right.
So it's actually cheaper to mail from the States to Canada than from Canada to Canada.
Interesting. Weird. These are the kind of things you learn here at New Comic Book Day Night Live.
Exactly.
All right, Rick, let's kick in with you now that you got your audio working. Did you get any new books, or what you working on, buddy? Oh, I asked to unmute. I had to do it because of if there's bots or anything today.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Oh, first of all, Al, good to have you on. But you should check into Chit Chat as well, because I know Jerome Cabanatan, he sends a lot of stuff from Canada to the States using Chit Chat, and it's super cheap. I don't know if you have one close to you or not. I guess it's like a third-party shipping place, but like he sends it for like only a couple dollars, you know, like $3, $4, $5.
Okay.
Now connected to Chromebook _
Yeah, so like I definitely think that's really helpful. Speaking of Jerome, I did get a bunch of my covers from his Tree versus Fox, so that'll be pretty cool. I have an art walk this week, so I'll have these at my table. And then I just got a bunch of these from Eli too. A little bit before that, I got a bunch of Ghost Agents. I got a page in here, so I was gonna sell them with the print of my page at the art walk as well.
Nice.
Who did the cover on the Ghost Agent?
It's Barry Tan, no?
Tan.
Yeah, Barry Tan, dude.
Nice, really nice.
Yeah, he's crazy. Let me see if I can find a piece of his art real quick.
Shout out
he's
to
so
our dude
good.
Abu in the comments there. He's got a new book. He just graduated from art school in India, and he's like, we've all been eagerly following his progress, man. Abu's killing it. Yeah,
that's more Barry Tan.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this whole book's filled with just amazing artists. You know, you can get it from ghostagents.net. That's the best place to get it.
Yeah, man.
Or from Cosmic Lion Productions.
Yeah, exactly. Cosmic Lion Productions. Ghostagents.net just links to Cosmic Lion Productions anyway.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's move into the interview portion of tonight's festivities. We have 2 esteemed guests, Emma and Al. Both have comics on the rack right now. Emma's drawing Frank Miller's Pandora, as well as many other things. The Stone Heart, which I read this morning. So much fun.
Excuse me.
Do you find, are you putting a little bit of yourself in the main character there? I was like, do I know Emma now, or is this like a different person? Or
No, you know me. I'm pretty
Nice.
much an open book at that point.
yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
down to the cuddly creatures. Like it's very on brand right now.
Yeah, I was
Nice.
gonna mention, yeah, because the main character, finds a cuddly creature of her own in the book, and
Yep.
I immediately thought about that when you brought the cat on screen.
Well, I
Um,
always have to, like, I feel like with every Emma Kubert story, I feel like there needs to be a signature creature that you just want to squish,
a little fur baby.
Just a little one, Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool in this one too, because you like find it and then immediately there's like the shadow creature behind it that you like,
Mhm.
or sorry, the character like kind of, for lack of a better term, hulks out and like rips up somebody.
Exactly.
That's awesome. All right, cool. Let's go over Manny. What do you want to do, man? You got some questions there?
Yeah, I guess my first question is gonna be for Emma is right off the bat, like it seems like you have such a, I guess, fleshed out world that you introduced and created in this first issue.
Uh-huh.
Like how what came first? Was it the story or the world? Like, I mean, I'm always curious as to people do world building because people come at it from different directions. So like I'm wondering how you did, because not only do we get a sense of a very complete character, but it's also a very complete world that you're creating. So I'm wondering,
Yeah.
how you achieve that.
Well, when I was working on Inkblot with Rusty Glad, he was someone who told me that it's so much better to think of a story from big to small. So thinking about something that's very generally big in the world and then narrowing it down to like the details of the characters going on a journey was something that before didn't really make sense to me, but then that kind of clicked. But I found that I actually end up doing all of those things backwards. And so with Stoneheart, I really thought about the story first and basically what I was going through at the time. And I just kind of wanted to make sense of it. So I started to write. And as I was writing, I was just kind of like, okay, this story is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Maybe I could possibly make it publishable. And so finally got to a point where it felt, tangible enough to pitch to Image Comics. And that's when I would say that's when the world came into play, but the character, me,
Yeah.
was always kind of at the forefront. And that's really what the whole story is about. I mean, you do have the whole entire world culminating around her, and you do get so much high fantasy out of this entire story, but you're really following her on her journey as well. And you're really looking into Shade Whisper in her head and externally.
You want to, I mean, go ahead and I guess for those of us that, or for those people watching that might not have read it, like give them a little synopsis of it, or
So
go for it.
Stoneheart is a ongoing high fantasy comic, so you're going to get it every month. And it is about a young woman named Shade Whisper who is exiled from her magical guild for an unknown mysterious reason, wiped of her memory, and literally just dropped, relocated into a new city to start a new life. When you meet her in the present, she's bubbly, she's excited, she's determined to start her new life, but then a sinister voice starts to creep into her head. And as it starts to creep into her head, she starts to feel the familiarity of that voice. And that is really where we start from, is her impending down this crazy rabbit hole of trying to figure out who she is and what her place is in the world and how that really affects absolutely everything.
Yeah, because that one of the most fascinating things that I liked was the juxtaposition that you said of her bubbly outward personality and the way that the characters she meets in this first issue react to her, you know. And then when we're privy to her thoughts, you know, just as she is, and they're so different from what she is, that it really does build this very foreboding, like tense sort of like feeling. And I think that that's very unique. I've never really read anything that had that kind of like. I mean, we've all read stories where you're seeing the inner monologue of a character, but not in this way where like the inner monologue is also like almost new to her, and she's like wondering where it's coming from. But, yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
And like with that, the only way I was able to really do that was by writing and drawing it myself. Like I would, as I'm creating it, I'm constantly going back and forth from writing the book to drawing the book to lettering the book. And it's just constantly jumping over everything so that everything kind of feels very cohesive and together.
Nice. Sweet.
Have any questions?
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's obviously super cool that you're working with Frank Miller on Pandora and Frank Miller Presents.
Yes.
Like, is this, are you like in Frank in pitch meetings all day, throwing stories back?
Like in heaven? Yes.
What is it like working? I mean, because it's called Frank Miller Presents. So is it like this whole kind of team, this whole business, this whole community, or is it really you and Frank? Or
it's basically a community, the first one that you described.
Okay, yeah, a team.
And it's basically Frank Miller, Dan DiDio, Celine Thomas. They created this company to foster new talent and put out new kind of titles and new types of stories. The concepts are all thought about by Frank. So these concepts do stem from Frank Miller, but me being on Pandora, he's allowed me to take that concept and just absolutely run with it. Because and again, like we've talked about this before, so it's amazing to be able to just speak to him about this kind of stuff. But we both have this really great love for children's stories and children's illustrations, like grim fairy tales, Alice in Wonderland kind of storybooks that are, you know, for children, but they're super creepy.
Right.
And so taking that kind of feel, that atmosphere and that concept, Frank really wanted to create one himself. And so when Dan DiDio, he saw Inkblot, he knows my work. He was just like, Frank, I think Emma would be a great fit for this. And I was like, I hope.
That's amazing. And you're like just left to like cultivate it just as you're doing for Strongheart, like it's your property, your ideas, you're kind of able to guide it.
Yep. Yes. I have created the character designs, the backgrounds. I lay out the story alongside a script by Anthony Moranville and Chris Silvestri, and it's honestly all coming together really, really great. Like I have such a great time working on it. You know, like any story that I'm literally working on right now is something that is for younger Emma. So it's really kind of a dream come true.
And your love of fantasy, where does that come from? And then what type of artists are like inspired you along that journey?
Well, I would say that really comes from my entire childhood.
Yeah.
I mostly grew up in the early 2000s, and that was really the very golden age of animated television. We had a lot of resurgence of the fantasy genre because of Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter for young adults, and all of those things that kind of culminated around that time. So that's what I grew up with. And that's why I love fantasy, because those are all the stories that I absolutely love. And so, coming into comics, I mostly grew up with it being all superheroes. So seeing all superheroes, it wasn't really my first choice. But when I found more of an avenue to have my own stories and, explore my own art, that's really what cultivated my multiple fantasy titles.
Did you find a need to like strike your own separate path, a new path, like
Yeah,
revolting against familial whatever?
I mean, definitely. And I would say that my dad, Andy Kubert, and my uncle Adam, they thought the same exact thing, because who can live up to Joe Kubert, and then who can live up to Andy and Adam Kubert? Like, it's not possible. So so I'd rather just kind of do my own thing, just like how my dad and my uncle wanted to do their own thing away from what my grandpa was doing.
Absolutely.
And that kind of forges your own passion and your own path, and hopefully, it lasts.
Absolutely. Look at these books too. It's gonna last, y'all. All right. All right, cool. Let's head back into the gallery view. See what's going on. Al's here as well. We've got questions. Emma, if you've got any questions for Al, same. Al, if you've got any questions, this is a wide
Hi, nice to meet you,
table.
Emma.
Yes.
Hi, it's nice to meet you too.
Does anyone else have any questions while we open it up, or should we go over to Rick? Let's go over to Rick. I always do this to Rick. I always forget to ask him. What's up, Rick? Asking to unmute. I'm sorry. I love you, Rick.
Hey, how's it going, Emma? Thanks for coming on.
Hi.
Where are you at? Oh, there you are. Yeah, so I'm honestly a little bit newer to your stuff. When I started looking through it, though, I really love how you I love the expressions that you're able to put these characters in. Like, you put them in a lot of just like everyday scenarios, like I found one where it's like Barbara Gordon and the Birds of Prey, and they're looking through the computer and they all got their own little funny expressions going on. Or you have like Beast Boy and Raven, they're just hanging out and stuff. Like, I really like that a lot. So I don't necessarily have too many questions. I was still learning myself. But I definitely like what you do a lot, and you got your own thing going for sure. You don't remind me of your dad or your uncle, and not in a bad way. And when I see it, it's like it's your thing for sure. I really dig that a lot, and definitely looking forward to hearing more about what you got going on for sure.
I totally appreciate it. I mean, thank you for even looking at my work.
Yeah, of course.
But I think one of my favorite things is to really just draw things with a modern animated twist,
Yeah.
And I think that's just kind of what, again, I grew up on. I grew up with animation as my first love rather than comics. So trying to meld the two together was really the ultimate goal for me.
Right.
I got a quick question. Did you ever think about getting into animation then, or?
Yeah, that was my first goal, was to be a storyboard artist. And then I, found out, I was an animation major at Savannah College of Art and Design at first. And so I realized that animating is not for me. It was very boring to me. I wouldn't say that to many other people, but I mean, for me, I just couldn't constantly make my characters move by just moving them 1 inch at a time. And so I found more of a love in storyboarding because it was a lot more fast paced and you were doing a lot more storytelling than regular animation. But then when I was going into storyboarding classes, I kind of realized that I just wasn't good enough, and I wasn't gonna be good enough in the time that allotted for my college career. So at that point, that's when I kind of went home and I went back to the Kubert school, and I really put my front foot forward and to be like, all right, I'm gonna still do, animation. I'm still gonna go after it, but let's see what comics are all about. And then second year, I was like, okay, I can draw comics. And then third year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna tell my own stories through comics. Let's just do that. And so the medium was kind of reluctant for me in a way, but I think I found my niche in it.
How do you handle time management? That's like a big one I struggle with, and I always want to know what everyone like, what you do, maybe what you do, and what
What do
definitely
you
ask Al.
usually do for time management? I'm curious too, because like for me, I feel like I'm scattered all over the place.
Okay.
And that I always have like, I'm always working on at least 3 projects at a time. So I'm constantly jumping from one thing to the next, just at a really fast pace. Like I try to finish a panel in like 15 to 30 minutes, and then I jump to another page over here. And that kind of culminates like in an entire day. I'll have like so much work done, but I don't really know how I did that.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like how
No,
do you
totally.
pick out your days?
Well, I still have a day job for like a few days of my week.
Mhm.
And so like I just try to push it as until I can't, stay up any later. And like when I get off of work, I come sit back at the desk. Like,
Yeah.
but I know that there's gotta be like a better way than just constantly grinding and stuff. Like I hear other artists talk about like TV shows and movies and stuff. Like I don't watch anything. Like I just sit at my desk and I'll listen to stuff. But like I'm like, how do you guys find the time to do shit? Because I'm constantly feeling like I'm just sitting here or like thinking about sitting there, even if I'm not sitting there.
I understand what you're saying. I think for me, I really am just like a multitasker, if that makes sense. Like I'll have a show on, I'll be kind of paying attention to it. I'll be inking something and coloring something and drawing something all separately, but also all at once. And it's also the fact that I think like I had a I also teach part-time. So I teach at the Kubert School part-time 2 days a week.
Oh my
no.
God, Jesus. Oh my God.
Oh
How
God.
Is that the Twitter bots you're talking about?
Yeah, here's the bots coming in.
Wow.
Jesus. I was preoccupied because there was like 10 people coming in that I all deleted. So who did that come from? Did anyone see?
Doug Plucker.
Jesus Christ.
Came from Doug Plucker.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone I don't
That's-
know, I'm removing.
So we should never share these on Twitter. That's what you were saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you were trying to help and everything.
Yeah, it's not
It happens.
your fault because we should be able to share it on Twitter without this happening. So it's not
Yeah.
it's
Jesus. Okay. I know this person, so they're coming in. Okay. I'm sorry for that interruption.
Oh,
guys.
good. I'm curious about everyone else. Like, how do you all manage your time drawing and everything like that?
What up, Donda? I got this new whiteboard that I've been working with a lot. It's been helping a lot. It helps keep my slices of paper sorted that are usually all over the desk. So I got that. I've been working with like Shelly Bond a little bit. She's helped me organize my day using a 9-panel grid, which is like very comic book themed. So you put like the things you're trying to do during the day or during the week, and you put them in each box and then put things you're going to do, and you kind of work at it from this like 9-panel grid, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Anyone else? Who else? We got Abu, who's got a question. I'd like to bring him in, but we can get a few more people.
And Kevin does too.
All right. Think about how you manage your time, and but let's get to Abu first, Kev, because he's been waiting. All right. I'm asking to unmute, bud.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gotcha, man.
Oh my God, this is a dream. Yeah, to Emma, I wanted to say, I when I was a baby, I grew up on Joe Kubert's books. I grew up reading his books because of my mother. My mother had Tarzan books,
Wow.
lots of them. I have like lots of them, and this is like a dream talking to you. You know, I never thought it's like meeting a celebrity, basically.
No, it's not. Not at all. I'm just
We're
that
lucky
mean-
that we're all celebrities here. We're all, everybody's
When
got
I
a
was,
book.
yeah, so when I was in eighth grade, I used to copy a lot of Joe Kubert's actions, you know, Tarzan poses and all that. Sometimes it used to come, you know, very ruined, you know, compositions. You know, sometimes it gets
Oh,
a
definitely.
bit broken. You know, it looks weird.
Yes.
Now, slowly as I progressed, I can, you know, do good compositions and stuff. So my question was about how do you, you know, plan a composition basically?
Sorry, say that again.
Expressions. How do you plan a composition? You know, an effective composition,
How do
the best possible shot, basically.
Mm. Well, there's a lot to that question. And honestly, it all comes down to the context of the scene that you're trying to portray. So what I always think of is I always think about the actual scene and what's happening in it. So who the characters are, what the setting is, and what is actually happening between these two characters in the plot. So if it's something that's like really intense and scary and upsetting, and maybe some sort of big menacing thing came out to threaten, I always like to look at it from a camera angle that's, from down below. So you're looking up at this character that's so dominating and
Now
domineering.
connected to Chromebook
And then
24.
I would say opposite of that, if you want to make someone look more vulnerable and it's a sadder moment,
Mhm.
you would look down on them from far away. And it's just because that it makes them look like they're in a more vulnerable spot. So it really is like the kind of shot that you choose adds that emotional context that like really supports the entire scene that you're trying to tell. And that's really something that honestly, like, I learned that from my dad, who learned that from my grandpa, is really that it's really the storytelling aspect that is passed down in the Kubert school and through us as well that really you can learn from. So
Very
so the fact that you also were like just copying my grandpa when you were in eighth grade, I did the same thing throughout the entire Kubert school. Like I was drawing over my grandpa's figures. I was like, okay, how does he figure out like this certain composition, etc. And it's amazing. And he actually passed away when I was I was going into my senior year of high school. I was deciding where I wanted to go with my life and what I wanted to do. And I would visit him every Saturday because I would go to the Kubert school, take an art class, and then he was always there drawing. So I would always be able to talk to him about all this stuff. And he would show me a couple of different things, but most often, we would just be talking about everything. And it's really cool to think about it in those kinds of terms, that it's really just as simple as kind of just getting the emotional context, and the view that you see it at dictates that emotion.
Thank you so much. Also, I wanted to know, what made Joe Kubert's Sergeant Rock and Tarzan so popular? Like, why did people,
Well, the only thing I can really say, like it's only from my own point of view. Like I can definitely not, I think he froze, but I definitely can't speak for a general public. but what I can say is that he really fleshed out entire worlds and entire characterizations out of simply, the brush, the flick of his hand. He was able to capture clear storytelling through composition, through emotion, through body language, and really just capture all of that motion together. Like, I know Sergeant Rock, he has his grittiness, but a lot of it really is how he composes every single shot of Sergeant Rock. And then with Tarzan, I mean, I've studied that. I have the artist edition of Tarzan because I study those pages like crazy. And with that, for me, it's all about movement, because Tarzan is all about constant movement and moving through the trees and acting like an animal and going anywhere he can. So two different approaches, but again, it's always the character itself that he's just trying to portray with like every stroke of his brush.
That is amazing. Like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thanks, Abu. Great question, man. All right, cool. Let's chat with Al a little bit. Manny's got. I'm gonna send it over to Manny and Al.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, Al. I'm very curious as to the concept of your book, and like, I mean, the campaign ends tomorrow. Like, you want to talk a little bit about it, because like, Orc Gym is such a cool title and so evocative, and immediately like kind of puts an image in your head. So like, where did the concept come from? What's the concept? Like, I mean, obviously it's also a fantasy concept, but it's infused with a lot of humor from what I can tell. So if you want to talk about all that or anything else,
Yeah, for sure. Well, it came naturally. Like it's just like I've been drawing orcs for as long as I remember, and I always been drawing them muscular, of course, because I've been learning to draw from like Dragon Ball and John Buscema and Joe Kubert and all the superheroes. And well, actually, I'm not just citing Joe Kubert. My first comic is named Chevalier Bataille, and I pretty much had like two comics beside my drawing table, which was Spirou by Franquin and Enemy Ace by Joe Kubert. I was just like looking at both of them all the time.
We got some nice synergy going on in this group.
Yeah, big fan. But so I always was interested in making a comic book with orcs. I had a second comic book called Orc Speed, which was like a Fast and Furious inspired orc comic. And
that's awesome.
It's a short story. It was in my first comic book anthology called Dagger.
Yeah, I think you sent me that.
Yep. And so I play a lot of basketball, and I'm 33 years old, so my legs started to hurt a lot. So I started to go to the gym, and I immediately got hooked with the gym culture. I got really inspired by all the people over there. And I'm not being diminutive or prejudiced against the gym culture, but like I thought orcs were the perfect creature to represent the gym culture. So I came up with this idea where like, well, orcs are a kind of territorial race, very physical race, and so if they were in a time of peace, well, they will have like a culture about something that's competitive, and I just thought it would be bodybuilding. So it's like kind of like a Gold Gym 70s California meet Mad Max, and the political structure is kind of medieval, so there's still lords, and these lords, rather than being castle owners, like they're gym owners. So we're following the story of the life of Lord Mango Mangolo, who's a gym owner, but doesn't take the community aspect seriously enough, and worries too much about his bodybuilding performance. So we're kind of following him and his gym like that's falling apart, and his crew. So that's Orc Gym.
That's so sick.
Yeah, man, that's a very, very original idea.
Thanks. But yeah, mostly like I've been like I did my first comic like in 2016. It was a silent comic, and it wasn't about anything much really other than orcs being cool. And but afterwards, I kind of noticed that I had this pattern to write about group dynamics. So I'm mostly interested in like a group of friends who have like a similar passion and trying to excel at it, and like trying to see what limits them. So like I usually create a setup that's like action and fantasy related, but like it's mostly about like inner battles and like so there will be like gangsters and like maybe a steroid monster, but like ultimately it will be about their own patterns and what limits them and their success.
What fantasy comics or what fantasy stories do you like?
Yeah, it's a good question because my interest for fantasy is really visual. I've never really read fantasy books actually.
So what movies, like what illustrators are you into?
Well, I really love Ralph Bakshi. I really love
So good.
the 70s vibe. I really like the tones of it, and I like there's a offness to it, like the drawings are because of the rotoscopy. So yeah, I like everything about it. Fire and Ice and Lord of the Rings are like movies that I watch all the time.
I
So
mean, like, have you seen the art of books for Lord of the Rings? Because
yeah,
they're
you mean the
insane.
Ralph Bakshi book or
Yeah.
there is
Yeah,
this
you
Ralph
just did that.
Bakshi
I meant
art of Lord of the Rings Fire and Ice book, and like
yes.
it's kind of very different. So.
I was like, I think one of my favorite fantasy things, or just like art books to even look into. I know this is crazy, but it's not crazy. Looking into a lot of old Disney art, and it has a really like distinct fantasy feel, but it also has this sense of like graphic designness that I just like is absolutely stunning. I saw like an original background that's an artist on Snow White drew, and it was absolutely magical. And it did remind me of like the Lord of the Ring drawings. And I thought that was just so cool.
I feel like those Disney stories kind of like, and the look of those movies like shaped what we even view in our heads as like fantasy these days, because like
yeah, I think so too.
for many of us it was the earliest visions of like fantasy and Snow White and those painted backgrounds. And like Al, I was just looking through this Kaya backup, this guy right here. I mean, that is so like Bakshi or like Druillet or something like that. It's like,
yeah,
guys, like you can see that.
Well, you guys are in my ballpark right now because actually Walt Disney is like huge. I like when I was a kid, I was dreaming to have my own Gofa land park. Of course, like it won't happen. But I read his whole biography, and we had an exposition in Montreal about his influence, and it's all 19th century fantasy illustrators. So I'm pretty sure you guys know, but Walt Disney like did travel in Europe and brought back tons and tons of books, and he had one of the greatest collection of 19th century illustration.
If I could get my hands on that.
Yeah, you should look it up. I think that exposition was all over North America, like, so probably there's other art book of it than the one from Montreal. But,
dude, shout to Bryce in the comments who suggested this guy Avind Earl. I just looked him up, but yeah, he like started he was born in 1916, and he did like a bunch of the paintings for backgrounds for Disney movies like in the 50s.
Yeah.
So this is probably the dude we're thinking of.
But yeah, those were like really like strong images. Like they were inspired from like some of the greatest illustrator Europe had, and like that Disney team of early animators were so like inspired and motivated. Like it's just like it really is a strong iconic time for being inspired from.
I think so too. I think that is like a real fantastical look that has kind of altered our minds in a good way.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there any other way to alter your mind?
Just in a good way.
Well, like, I don't know, if you watch a horror movie when you're too young, that's like
Oh, that's true. That's true. All right, let's bring in Kevin Delgado, Mr. Tough Stuff himself. He's got a question for the crew here.
Yeah. So you guys are talking a lot about like fantasy books and everything, and you know, this business is, you know, we're here to sell books and make money. Do you find it difficult to like pitch a fantasy series? Because like when I think of fantasy, I think of like sprawling concepts, and it might be something like how would you like shorthand your pitch for that? Because I did like a fantasy book. I did 8 issues. I was gonna do 12, but it wasn't going after issue 8. It just wasn't meeting the numbers I wanted it to. So like when I would go to conventions and try to sell a book, it was too sprawling of a concept for me to kind of just say, hey, it's fantasy, it's sci-fi, it's this, that, and third. I've learned since then to like shorthand my pitch down super to the point, you know, catchy, quick, kind of catch you off guard kind of a thing. So it's like, did you ever meet like blowback trying to like do a fantasy, or did you have like a you know, I know a lot of times they say they like something that you can compare it to, you know, like this is Superman meets X-Men or something or whatever, you know, place each you know variation in there, whatever. So I guess, you know, is it how do you go about like sending that to a publisher and say, you know, trying to get a deal out of it, you know?
Well, I think it's exactly what you said, that you started doing, is that you started cutting down your pitch as you're trying to, you know, bring it to conventions and everything to just a quick kind of elevator pitch, basically. And so I would say that that is the thing that you need to start your pitch with before you even send it out. Like me personally, and this is just me going through the pitching process, is that I have pitched fantasy stories that didn't, you know, take or didn't pan out. And usually those ones were the ones that had a little bit more convolutedness to it. Like
Right.
it had concept upon concept upon concept. And I think when we're thinking fantasy, we're already thinking of other worlds. We're already thinking of things that we're not familiar with. So having a baseline for the story that's something that's tangible and relatable in this, you know, exotic setting, I think is what's going to capture them. So I don't know what, you know, what do you got, Al?
Yeah, well, I think the point about fantasy specifically is right and interesting. Like I personally like pitch stories that were fantasy or not fantasy, and yeah, it all comes down to like trying to be as catchy and concise and clear as possible. But it's not always obvious, because like I don't know for you guys, but like I've learned I've discovered who I am as a writer in the last few years, but I've been drawing my whole life. So a lot of my projects I didn't even understood them first. So I think yeah, I think if you're really serious about being a comic book artist and writer, like yeah, I personally I had to take a lot of time just to write a lot and like really get on it, like, and really understand what's important for me. And then it became a lot easier to make good pitch. So yeah, that's my only recommendation.
And also to add on to that, because just to add on, I know that when we were pitching Inkblot to Image Comics, the whole concept was a very simple concept, but you could also see an epic story out of it. So it's kind of like if you're trying to make an epic fantasy, you have to have little stories in between that connects that epic, you know? So like people need to be captured by the little stories first, and then you can have that big concept that kind of connects everything. So that's kind of what we had with Inkblot, is that it was a concept about, I don't know, just a magical black cat that can go anywhere and do anything. That was literally the pitch. But with each issue, we had characters around it, settings around it that kind of created more to the world and created more plot as you go around this little concept of this magical cat. So I would say that honestly probably really ensured the longevity of that. And that's kind of what I'm going with all these other fantasy stories too, is that if you have a simple concept, you can really do anything with that plot. But to keep your audience captured and interesting, you have to give them little plots with the big one. That makes sense.
Right on.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
cool.
And like, if you start it chill, you start it, you know, basic, there's really no limit to like what you can do, where you can shoot it out, where you can bring
Yeah.
in, you know.
It always keeps things open for you to do more stuff with,
Oh yeah.
especially having that kind of open concept and simple concept. You can apply that simple concept to any situation and have longevity in that story.
Yeah, agreed. Word, cool. All right, so let's see. Rick is doing some art over there. He's nonstop art. I tell you what, y'all, if you're not checking out Rick on Next Panel Press, I think you're missing out some fireworks, you could say.
And the man is definitely always work. I don't think I've ever spoken to Rick where his face isn't down and he's drawing. And I mean that as a compliment. The man is a workhorse, and I love it.
Oh, sorry, asking you to unmute.
Yeah,
And
just
I
don't
want
wanna-
to shout out to our friend Brandon, who just showed up too. What up? Welcome. I have everyone muted because we had some issues. I'll ask you to unmute if you want to pop in.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on, Al. I really love your work, dude. Your art. I love your inking, man. It's so good. First of all, congratulations on making your Kickstarter. I've been loving watching your campaign and watching all the swipes and homages you've been doing. They've been so awesome. And I've been wondering, like, this isn't your first Kickstarter, right? Like,
Yeah, no,
how
I've
many
been doing 3 others before this one.
3 others before this one? And how did all those go in comparison?
They were very different. Oh well, thanks for all the compliments.
Yeah, dude, of course, of course.
Well, my 2 first one were like anthologies, and we had about 20 artists on each of them, and some of them were complete unknowns, and others were like had pretty big following on the internet. So it was really easy. I didn't have a lot to manage. Like we reached like 30Ks like really fast. So, and I did like a very lazy campaign. Like we just have a book, we'll buy it, and end of it. And while this one is just about myself, so like I had to keep people going, and it's interesting because you have access to all the data, like how many people actually saw your post, and you realize a lot of like have about 7,000 followers on Instagram, and maybe like 100% will see my post. So stuff like that, you're like, okay, maybe I have to be like really present and really like, I'm not actually bothering people by posting all the time because most of them didn't see it. So stuff like that I didn't have to think about when I did the anthologies. So that's why I've started doing videos and homage to like try to attract attention as much as possible. But I wanted to do it in a way that I have fun and that looks like me too. So it was fun, but it was a lot more work.
Yeah, totally. So were the other two Kickstarters all you as well then? You said you did 3 before this one?
Yeah, like so there was 2 that were anthologies, and there was another one in between Orc Gym and the 2 anthologies that it was with writer Patrick Kendland. He's a frontiersman writer. Like it came out last year at Image Comics, and we did a comic book called Red Pale Dots, and it's kind of like Total Recall meet Black Sad. And but like we kind of used the same strategy as I did for the anthology, so we didn't make a big amount of money. So that's where I kind of changed my strategy.
No, that's still awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about your background because like just going through all your work and everything, and like at first I didn't even realize that you were in Canada either. And like we were going through that your backup in Kaya, and that was so cool. Like I like your artwork a lot, man. Like big fan of how you draw, man. Love your inks. And I'm just curious, like what makes you you? Like, you know, like what's your background like? Did you go to school or is it all self-taught?
Yeah, I went to school, but I'm from Drummondville, which is like a really small town, and I just went to the public college. And I didn't learn a lot there other than I didn't want to do contemporary arts. And then I went to Sheridan College, which is an animation school. And I wanted to go in animation back then, and I didn't get accepted. It's actually considered one of the greatest schools in North America. Anyway, so I did this art fundamental program where we were doing live drawing, and I really got hooked on just drawing a lot. I used to draw a lot, but like I didn't have the approach most cartoonists have. That was like 15 years ago, and since then I just had side jobs, and at one point I got a job in a comic book store, and that's when I started meeting pros. Well, pros from Quebec City. I was living in Quebec City then, and they were telling me, well, you should like just make a comic or something. I wasn't really focused back then, so I didn't think about like what I was about to do in the future. I was just like happy to draw and work in a comic book store. But yeah, I started taking it a lot more serious then, and yeah, there's no like special event or anything. I just at one point decided. Well, actually, no. I got sick for 3 years. I had tendonitis. I couldn't draw. I couldn't eat. I had a hard time eating. I was kind of like doing like a dog eating in my bowl. My hand really, I couldn't raise my hand. Anyway, so after that, I kind of got like a bit motivated. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a comic right now. So that kind of put fire, I guess. And yeah, I've been doing a lot, as much comic as I can for the last 6-7 years. That's pretty much it.
No, dude, I love it.
Nice.
I know other people have questions, so I'll definitely like come back with a couple other ones. Thanks again,
Thanks
Al. I
for your
appreciate
question.
you, man. Yeah, absolutely,
sure.
dude.
Thank you.
Shout out to Tony Farrow, who just popped in, my favorite TikTok superstar. And I know I say it every time, but I still watch you on TikTok. I watch what my girlfriend sends me, and I watch Tony. So
What's his content on TikTok?
art and hilarious like duets or whatever they are. It's very funny.
Okay, sounds great. I'll look it up.
Well, you guys mentioned TikTok.
Go ahead, Manny. Sorry.
Emma, when I heard your interview with Ryan on the Comic Lounge, you talked about you're pushing your TikTok. Like, I don't have a TikTok, but I'm curious as to like how are you using it as a platform for your art and to like sort of push your art, like because I mean it's usually just stupid videos that I've seen on there. I'm curious as to how you're using it as a tool.
I'm using it to just showcase like basically my life as a comic book artist.
Okay.
What I work on and time-lapse drawings, like whatever I'm drawing, you could see it on TikTok. So I figured that I could really use that platform to just really talk about, what it's like day to day and what it's like, going through the motions, what it's like to create things. And I thought, that might be somewhat engaging for people who like comics, but also for people who don't really know comics and aren't really a part of the industry as a creator or as a consumer. So what I really wanted to do was expose more people to, comics in general and have more people like comics all the time. So
nice. I just followed you on TikTok. It's such an insane
how many followers do you
thing.
have on TikTok?
I don't know. Like
I think I'm gonna get a TikTok.
something.
I think
Like
you sold me.
7,520.
Woo!
Good job. Good job.
Growing.
TikTok, it's hilarious. I don't care.
Yeah, I think so
old
too.
people
It's kind of
say.
like an emotional roller coaster for me.
Yeah.
You know, like 1 minute you see a dog video, the next minute you see something devastating, the next minute you learn about history, and then the next minute you see a dog video again.
I'm really like, because my girlfriend's into it a lot. And so there's also like TikTok radio on Sirius XM. And this new thing is like listening to pop songs either faster or slower than they
Wow.
are. You're familiar with this?
That's
Emma's
so weird.
laugh. It's
No.
crazy. It's good. I'll tell you. The weekend is good no matter how fast or how slow you're playing this song. All right. Tony's got a cue. What up, Tony?
Yeah, no, I'm glad I made it here in time because I wanted to ask Emma about her experience on TikTok because I follow her on TikTok and I think I'm finding my experience on TikTok is really weird and like it's totally unlike any other social media and like and I feel like I'm really a big champion for getting cartoonists to get on TikTok because I feel like we're super under represented on TikTok as opposed to all other forms of social media.
I agree.
And like I can't find a good like community of comic book people on TikTok. I've been trying for like a year now.
No,
and,
I totally agree. I mean, I think part of it can be that okay, I'm about to reveal age right now.
Okay.
And I think really honestly, part of it is that there are not many creators, like comic creators, that are younger with like and synonymous with the generation of TikTok, if that makes sense. Like I would even say myself, I'm a millennial, like a late millennial, and I just got onto TikTok and just started to push it. And I'm seeing like literally, 16-year-olds gain like millions of followers just by dancing around. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
But it's also, yeah, I think it's me personally, just what I viewed. It just seems like a younger person's game. And it's so difficult to start a career in comics, and you could go 5-10 years without really breaking into the industry. So I think it just honestly takes time to really put yourself out there like that. And then with TikTok and any social media, it takes forever to gain followings like that too.
It's true. And I think the weird thing for me is that like I think everything you're saying is true, especially about it being a younger person's thing. But I think that's true of all social media at some level. And I think for some reason TikTok has not brought in the older people over time the way that like Instagram and Facebook did. So I'm just wondering like what the resistance is there. And I don't know, but
I think it's because we didn't cope with it yet. Like when Instagram showed up, I was just like, oh, I have to go on that thing. Like, okay,
it's like a new thing you have to approach. Like, because I remember growing up with Facebook, and that was easy to get on and to use and stuff like that. And then Instagram came and Twitter came, and that was a whole other ball game. And then there's another thing you gotta go on. So much, and you have to make videos, which is like so laborious that it's crazy.
I realized the existence of Twitter like 4 months ago. I was like, oh, okay.
The really off-putting thing about TikTok to me is my experience on other social media has been like building a following of people that and friends of friends, and you build this network. Whereas on TikTok, it's like you're dealing with thousands of strangers immediately. Like they're showing your videos to absolute strangers as opposed to like your friends. And that can be really problematic.
It can definitely be problematic. But hopefully, like over time, TikTok can kind of, hopefully it can help rather than hurt,
Right.
like have the system kind of grow from there.
Yeah,
But
that's why
that's definitely a problem.
that's why I'm advocating so much for people for comic book people to get on there, because it's like I feel like we need to offset that, because it's like we have no representation of like a community. And
All right, I'll
so
get
it's-
on TikTok, Tony.
Okay.
No,
You sold
Yeah,
me.
I mean-
you both have sold me.
I know and I feel bad too, because when I sell people, it's like I feel like I'm throwing them into something that's can be really bad. Like I've known people who had gotten on TikTok and within days they've had horrible experiences. So it's like you just never know what you're gonna get.
You
But-
you don't know what you're gonna get, but I
Yeah.
think it also depends on how they personally interact on TikTok and how, like, what videos they're putting up too. I mean, I'm not saying they're inviting this hate at all, like
No.
definitely not.
Some of
but
them are.
some might.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, like, since this algorithm is just so random, it could easily just fall into the wrong hands,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden that just blows up. Like, I think I'm lucky enough that I'm starting to kind of gain more of a community rather than like hate. And usually across any of my social medias, if I see something that like really doesn't resonate with me, I'm like, block, bye. Like,
Yeah.
I have no problem doing that. So it's just
Can
like,
I just say one last thing? I just want to bring up one last thing.
yeah,
Are you familiar with the Bad Ink comics?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that to me, I don't know him from anywhere other than TikTok. Like
Yeah.
I don't know their
I don't
work
either.
from right, and they've been very successful on TikTok.
Mhm.
And so I've been talking to him a little bit, that the writer guy, and I feel like they're like a really good representation of what the potential of comic books on TikTok is. And we gotta crack their code, like figure out whatever they did right, because they're doing it, man. Like
I
it's-
agree.
yeah.
I follow them too. And that's like, though, that was kind of one of like the stepping stones, is like looking at the Bad Ink Studios videos and seeing how they kind of approach things. And there would be videos, some where he's really talking to the camera, answering questions and stuff like that. But like the more popular videos was more like tutorials that he was
Right.
giving too.
Right.
So content wise, like, I feel like TikTok is not only a place for entertainment, but it's also a place for so many people to learn things and quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a huge part of what we can do with comics, is that we can really just teach people about them and our perspectives, but also, educate this younger generation.
Yeah. 100%, I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, one of his first videos on there is like about the Incal, it looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm already ready to read. All right, quick shout out to the man Brandon Graham, who's in here. Someone whose social media game is like super sweet. Like the stories, the stuff you share, it's amazing. I never cared about Tintin till
What?
now, I just, it wasn't in my life, I don't think. I know.
I
Come
forgot how
on.
important it was to me. Now I'm sitting here wearing a Tintin shirt like an idiot.
I know, and now I'm like into it. That's what I'm saying is, I found a book at a yard sale when I was back home in Maryland, and I was like, here's where I begin. Here's where
Yeah,
I
it's
start.
funny how Brendan became the 1010 ambassador or something. I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, hey, I like 1010 too. I've been liking 1010 for years,
I probably took on my influences too much because I feel like when I was back doing like Prophet or whatever, I was the Mobius guy. And now I've read every Mobius book I can find. Now it's move on to the stuff that was out in France and Belgium before him.
Well, Mobius is a 1010 fan, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm
and
going
you
to
can
go
see
back.
it.
It's going to be cave paintings eventually.
Sweet, man. Do you have a question, Brandon, for Emma or Al or anything, or you want to just hang back?
I don't know. It's been really fascinating. I was really interested in hearing Emma talk about the pitching. I often think that there's you essentially have to build a lie to tell people about what a book is, because if you could distill it down to a elevator pitch, then there'd be no point in making the comic. So I thought that what you talked about was really good.
No, I mean, like, I think it's one of my biggest struggles, taking a giant story idea in my head and then, watering it down to a sentence. But once that pitch is accepted, then it just explodes again.
Yeah,
as,
totally.
As soon as it's done, then I get it back.
And there's a difference between pitching it to like a publisher versus like, say, pitching it to sell to someone at a con, because then you need to know like your audience. Because like because then you might need like, oh, it's like Superman crossed with Batman. That doesn't sound good. But like,
and that's the same with like, again, like it depends on like what company you're pitching to as well. Like I know with Image, what they're really always looking for is a very original story, but unfortunately I don't think original stories exist anymore. So now we're taking original stories and combining them together to make original stories.
I think that counts as an original story. Oh, I do have a question. I'd be interested in if there's a perceived reader that you think of when you're making your books.
Wait, sorry, say that again.
I was asking, do you think of like a perceived reader? Do you have an idea of the kind of person that's going to pick up a book when you're working on a comic?
I picture the kind of book that I want to pick up, and that's it. I don't picture anyone else picking up my book. Maybe Rusty, my partner. Maybe I do it to impress him too, a little bit. But I would definitely say, like, I've been creating stories for literally my younger self, and I think that's all who I want to impress. So I'm really glad that other people are impressed by me, but I'm glad that I'm very much impressing that little girl inside of me that has been searching for these stories her entire life. And that's really all I'm here to please.
What about you, Al? Or also, I mean, if we think about it, every single person in here is got a book. So like, anyone else want to take that one? Go ahead first, Al.
Well, I like what Brendan said about the pitch being kind of a lie, and I think I was innocent for too long, and I was like actually making honest pitch, and lately I realized that it's like really not a good idea, and like and it's true, like I don't have to like Emma said, to like do what my pitch is. Like I can just do whatever I want afterwards. So I like all that, and that's kind of my new focus and new way of making pitch. It's just like, you want to hear that? Here's that.
Nice. You guys, do you know the famous story about the Walking Dead pitch having aliens that he never planned on?
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny.
He went way far over, so they were like
aliens.
Yeah. Was it like
I think at one point they were like, where are the aliens? And he's like,
Yeah, I just said that. So
yeah,
because he went extra far so that he could like dial it back and be like, that's what it was, right, Brandon? Oh yeah, it's pretty great. Anyone else? Any of the other creators in here want to field that? Do you find yourself writing to yourself or to Adam saying himself? I'll ask to unmute
Adam's nodding his head down there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Adam's like, I love Conan.
That's
and
like, because it's not like my main job. Like when I started making comics, I just wanted to make them for me. I mean, I wanted to see what I wanted to read. And I wanted to see the art that I wanted to see, and people seem to respond really well to the stories and the art that way, just because I guess it feels like authentic on a certain level, because it's like, I guess it connects with other people who are as crazy as I am. So
I hear that, man. It's the same for me, man. Like when I did my first book, Monkey Lion, I wanted to see Star Trek and Ninja Turtles together. And so I just made, anthropomorphic Star Trek musicians exactly the same way. I just wanted to fuse everything I love into something that hopefully other people would love. So I guess I did envision other people as well, but only because like I thought what I thought is so cool must be the coolest thing, right? So everyone's gonna like dig it. I don't know. All right, looks like Kev's got a question, and then we'll hit Abu, and then I guess Tony's hand was already done. All right, what's up, Kev? I'll ask to unmute you again. Unless anyone else wants to answer that question, then raise
that was the reason I just wanted to get.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Kev. Let's get to Tony real quick here.
This goes for anyone that works, like in the industry and not, like just for themselves or anything. But like I recently just had like an issue with the editor, and like I really didn't say much. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't, I disagreed with them over a piece of art that I produced. Basically, I just said, like, if you don't want to use my piece, then I don't want to contribute it, kind of. But I don't know. I'm just kind of looking for like what has there ever been an issue where you had with an editor where you had a conflict like that? How did you handle it? What advice do you have? Are you basically at like their mercy, or is there a way to compromise? Just looking for any kind of way to, smooth sail a situation like that.
Wide open, really. I'll ask to unmute again. Just, I don't know if you'll be able to, Al.
Yeah. Well, I think it's case per case. Were you paid in advance, or were you gonna be paid, or is there no pay? Or
I was commissioned to do a piece. It was approved, and then before it went to print, I was alerted that it wouldn't be approved. And they asked me to like edit it, and I was just like, I took reference from the interiors of the books and everything, and then it was a problem. But it was in the book art to begin with, so I don't know. The whole situation just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I was just like, you know what, I'll just pass on the opportunity at this point.
Yeah, I understand. It can be really frustrating. I gotcha on that. And well, if at one point they said like it's okay, like we take it, like you just did it, like for them to come back, like you should be allowed to like require extra pay or something. Like I've been working with not editors but art directors like that will like change their mind on the process. I'm like, no, it's not happening. Like, yeah, and usually like they respect that. Like they don't. Well, you better not work with them. It's better that you're off.
Yeah, I have to just like preface this by saying I don't think I've really been in that exact scenario, but what I can say is that whenever I'm working with a publisher and working on characters or things that I didn't create, it's created by someone else, then I would say they have the most dictation over what I do, apart from, me deciding, the layout and everything else. But that editor is not really, I guess it depends, like if he really did say before it was approved, like it's approved, this layout is approved, it's good, and then you finish the piece and they're like, that's not what we wanted, that is the editor who missed that, and you should be kind of compensated for that in the end, if you were to proceed with it. I guess I guess it depends on like the scenario.
In my case, a new editor came in between the time that it was approved and the time it got printed.
Oh.
So, okay. But if I compared to you the piece that was published instead of my piece looked tame in comparison, as far as like subject matter goes. But they said had an issue with the subject matter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Then I don't know, dude.
I could tell you exactly what it was. I don't want to like get a bad reputation or anything, but basically
Well, what I would basically say is that if you weren't comfortable in the scenario, then I think it's okay to back down.
Yeah.
Because I think at that point, if they switched editors on you and this editor is just not agreeing with you and you're publishing with this company, then there's not much that you can do because you are the hired talent and you are the one creating the piece. But if there is controversy there, then I think you did the right thing, backing down and just kind of stepping away. But
Yeah.
talking to them and also thinking about, like, let's say you go into your next project and, you know, you want to definitely learn from those past mistakes and be like, all right, double check this layout or make sure that, or provide like a couple different ideas. Like, I know for me, there was one project that I forgot to ask them right in the beginning what the deadlines were. And that was a big mistake on my part, is that I should have asked that when the deadlines are. But it was the editor's job to dictate those deadlines to me because that is how they manage a team. And they had it so that I was doing layouts for 2 weeks and then on 8 pages of story, and then I had to pencil a story in 2 days. And that was just not okay to me. So that was something that, yeah, like in the beginning, that was my mistake and I should learn from that. But it was also their fault for doing that as well. You know, and you just kind of have to step away and be like, okay, this was a learning situation. I'm going to move on to the next one.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah,
In my short time as a freelance illustrator, I've been doing it for 2-3 years, and I had a few contracts. I would always offer them 2 choices: one that's terrible and one that's great, and they will always pick the great one. And then they couldn't back down on it. It really helped assert my power in the situation.
that is a good little trick.
What happens if they pick the
Actually,
terrible
my
one?
dad taught me that one too.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, classic.
If they pick the terrible one, do you just have to make that one work though?
Yeah, well, it's kind of inspiring. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do something good with that one.
Sweet. All right, let's go back over here to Abu. I'm going to ask to unmute you, man.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha. Yeah, you're kind of going in and out, but we hear you.
All right. So my question was about gathering references for, to compose a scene basically. So where do you get your references when you create a world basically and characters? Because I sometimes find it difficult, to compose a character, in a building a world basically. So where do you get your references?
Al, you go first.
Well, yeah, that's a good question, because I think you have to accept the idea that like you don't master everything you want to draw. Like my strength is muscle, but of course I have other intention and background took me a long time, and but I've learned with time to enjoy drawing landscapes and more medieval backgrounds. But lately I've been working on a sci-fi comic, and like I don't want to use a ruler. I'm not that kind of artist, and I have no imagination for gear and mech because I don't really watch sci-fi comics. Well, I've been reading a lot of fantasy comics, so, and I've been like all my life I developed an imagination for fantasy. So a lot of reference were already in me, and those came really easily. I just like sit and like try to think about them, and like I will realize that I actually know a lot about castles, I know about trees, I know about like clouds. So those, like, usually I don't really use much reference for them, but like, yeah, so you have to just like first take the time. I would just like really be patient with yourself and like try to see maybe you already have all these references in you. Like, it's kind of cheesy, but I think so. And but there's stuff that you really don't have. Like I couldn't draw a bike like right from my mind because I never think about bikes. I don't know anything about bikes. So I will actually take a book and usually like the first drawing I will do of something I'm not used to will be really stiff. So you kind of want to get warmed up, not on your page, but on a sketchbook, and like try to get the motorcycle down or whatever you're looking for. And then it will, yeah. It just everything register. You need to trust your mind. Like everything records in there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it will look too stiff if you really go hands down on reference all the time.
What about you, Emma?
Well, I definitely agree with everything you said, of course.
Yeah.
For me, it all depends on if I'm writing something or drawing something. Drawing wise, world building, I would say that the world is always a character in itself too. Like just like what everyone says about Gotham City, it's a character in itself. So that's kind of how I treat literally every single background and every single setting that I have, is that it has life to it and it has excitement to it and things that are just unique to that particular background or scene. And that goes with writing too. Whenever I'm trying to think of inspiration, I try to basically open myself up to everything that I'm inspired by, everything that I see, everything that I look at. Like, as Al said, like, you have the reference in you. So I always thought that I think that's great because, like, honestly, a lot of what Stoneheart is from me and Rusty literally driving across the United States and me seeing all of these different landscapes in like literally 5 days. So it was just kind of like, I could make an entire world out of this, and just being open to the things around you that you're, take a liking to, that you're inspired by. You can really just utilize that in your own stories too.
Nice.
Yeah, and in that spirit, like I think, like, I don't know for you guys, but I used to reference myself to a lot of other artists, and it will kind of comfort me. I'll be like, oh, I want to do a comic like Roy Crane, or I want to do a comic like Joe Kubert, and or Alex Star, or whatever. And usually it will just be because there's a certain type of line in it that I'm right now kind of feeling like drawing, but like I'm already owning that line. I'm already drawing that line. So it's more a matter of confidence why I need so much to refer myself to these artists. So ultimately, like, what you really dig and really like is already in you. So I don't need to open a Michael Golden comic to draw a bit like Michael Golden, because I've already watched Michael Golden. I've already recorded it. Of course, there's a time when you can really take the time to study, but like it shouldn't be like a reflex. I realize that, like, when I start to let it go and not worry too much, like, I still draw like I draw, and all my favorite artists are still inspiring me. And like, so I think it's kind of a bit the same about like if you're drawing a specific subject matter. Like if you're drawing a chair, there's 1,000 ways to draw a chair, but there's a way that like is yours because this is what you remember of a chair and what you care for a chair. And of course, you should revisit it and like study chairs, but like you don't want to lose what's your interpretation of a chair too, like what you unconsciously care for in a chair, or whatever subject you're drawing.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to send this one down to Brandon, whose worlds are incredibly stacked with interesting creatures and languages. Where do you find all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of in line with what these guys were saying, my take on kind of where ideas come from is oftentimes, it's kind of a mix of mining your own life and also reacting to other people's work and how you feel about it. Yeah, so as far as like making characters, sometimes it's fun to do a thing like basically be like, here's a Frank Miller style character. I'm going to try to put my own spin on, or this is a character kind of based off of a person that I really like hanging out with in my life, and I think what would they be like if they were in a Lord of the Rings scenario? So kind of just a short version of like, I'm basically reiterating what Emma and Al were saying.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah, I think that's and then there's like another way to do it, kind of like Mike Allred did in the Silver Surfer, where he's just like, okay, now they're on like the Mobius planet, and now they're on like the Star Trek planet. It's like, you can straight up wear those references on your sleeve, or you can kind of like run them through the like sieve of your mind and its creativity.
Yeah, I like how amazing it is sometimes when you try to do a version of something and it comes out like something else. Like I've done comics where I've specifically been like, this is going to be my mainstream breakout comic, and then the readers get back to me and they're like, this is the weirdest thing. I don't know what kind of drugs you were taking. And it's like, you failed, but in an interesting way.
Yeah, sometimes you try for one angle and it just goes the opposite other, and I'm the kind of reader that likes the stranger, so anyone else? Rick, did you want to throw something at that, or Tony, another amazing crafter of worlds?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some thoughts on reference and stuff like that.
Go for it.
Yeah, one of the things that I always, everything always comes back to Kirby to me, like and so when you look at Kirby's like, you can tell things that he's referenced, but it always looks like Kirby, and you can tell, and so that I think is the important thing, is to like, when you use reference, to make sure that you bury it in your own style as much as possible, because otherwise it just looks like obvious reference, So my approach is, rather than like taking a photo and trying to copy it, I just like look at that photo and try to like figure out like what are the essential components of this thing. And as long as I can get enough of those things that it reads as that thing, then that's good. Like I there have been times in some of my comics in the past where I've been so stuck on something like a motorcycle or something that it's just like I end up just tracing it, and it's like, it's so obvious that it was just that I didn't draw it, or that it didn't come from my mind, So I think that's the important thing, is just to try to bury your reference in your style as much as you possibly can. And if it's something that doesn't need to be referenced, like if it's like, I don't know, that's my thought anyway, is like, if I'm drawing a chair or something, it doesn't need to be perfect, as long as it's a chair.
Yeah.
That's the important thing,
Someone tells you it looks weird, you can be like, this is what chairs look like in this world.
Right. Because it's like, well, I mean, I personally have the benefit of like having a style that's not particularly realistic. So if I draw a like wonky perspective on something, it's like, it doesn't really stand out so much, because the whole thing is just fucked up to begin with,
Yeah.
So I'm not as constrained by the bounds of reality as a lot of artists are.
Sometimes when I look at those photos that like Kirby referenced, like, there's that topless female that he did, and then there's like, somehow I look at the actual photo and I'm like, that's referencing Kirby somehow. Like I still see like the Kirby. It's such a weird thing, because his style is so ingrained in the way I like see
Yeah,
things.
Kirby is so big that it's like taking over everything he was inspired from. It's like Bela Lugosi is the real Dracula. It's not like the book.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a question from Bryce Davidson. I'm going to ask to unmute. You can come on cam if you want. You don't have to. Oh, there he is.
Hey, Al.
Hey, Bryce. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So I'm curious as to how being in Montreal. Oh, my cat. Sorry. How being in Montreal is kind of has affected your work. It seems like there's like a lot of energy in that city, I guess, just in terms of people that I've encountered. For example, like I know that you and Connor and Maxime were all in a studio together, and the Drawn Quarterly people. So it just seems like there's a lot of good, and the Lethal guys. So it seems like there's a lot of cool just stuff coming out of that city in general. And I'm curious if you could just speak on that in terms of how it has affected your work at all, or yeah, anything like that just coming up in that city in particular.
Yeah, totally. It's a good question. I like it. Well, I moved to Montreal in 2012, and I went to the Festival de la Bande Dessinée in Montréal, and French comic book Montreal Festival, I guess. And I met Vincent Giard, which is like probably my second favorite artist. There's like Alex Stott and there's Vincent Giard. But Vincent Giard is not a producing artist. He's not an art director, and that's good for him. Like I think he had like a hard time being an artist, but he really inspired me and motivated me in making comics. He was actually I had a grant from the Quebec province for my first comic, and I needed to ask an artist to be my mentor, and he was my mentor. And he really like got me into like a lot of different underground artists that I will have never showed interest for before. So I recommend everyone to look at his work. It's Vincent, and Giard, it's like Giard. I know Bryce and we talked about it at one point. I told him I will send him Zen, and I never did, but I will. And there's Vincent Giard, who's I think has been a big influence on many different artists. I know he's been an influence on my best friend Maxime, who you mentioned, and so there's that. Then after there's the Anglo scene, which Connor and Drawing Quarterly is more a part of. If I met Connor just because I bought drawing from him, we end up being friends, and I end up going in his studio. But otherwise, like it's not the same circles, different stuff or circles. Most of the Anglophone artists in Montreal are professional comic book artists, while the Francophone artists are like doing underground indie stuff. So it's a very different scene, and they're like I'm one of the only person who's a bridge in between. Yeah, there's that. Then there's the guy from Lethal, like you mentioned. I just met them, and I realized there's a lot of pro comic book artists who are not part of any community. We just moved in Montreal because it's cheap. It's a really cheap city, and they're able to live in English there, and so that was interesting. That's how I think Wes Craig got familiar with my work, and I ended up like doing a short story for him. So I didn't realize that before, but there's actually a way for me to enter the American market by socializing with comic book artists in Montreal, which is not something I've been doing. I was socializing with underground comic book artists. So now it's kind of I'm discovering the pro scene in Montreal slowly. I will give you news about it eventually.
Pretty close to the US and that market there, and like Boston and like the Northampton Ninja Turtles area up there. Do you ever get down to like see anything in the Northeast there, or?
Well, when I was a kid, I went to Boston, but nothing. And I had a art history lesson about Chicago. It looks nice, but no, the only other convention I've done outside of Quebec was in Toronto for the TCAF. That's where I met Andrew McLean and Alex Zerit, and yeah, like I should really do more conventions, because like as soon as people see your face, they kind of like want to help you. So like I had my first gig in comics, which was a Ed Lauper cover for issue 11, and that's just because I met Andrew for like 2 minutes.
Do you feel a kinship with those two? I feel like those two creators, especially,
yeah, totally.
You guys have a similar feel. You guys could totally like do a jam comic.
Yeah, I would love to. I've worked with Alexis already on Dagger, and yeah, Alexis is definitely inspired by Joe Kubert, by the way, and Jordi Burnett too. I see a lot of Jordi Burnett in his work, and so yeah, I love Alexis. And Andrew like is my more Kirby Dragon Ball kind of side, so I love his work too. And, yeah, yeah.
And your guys' coloring is so similar too. It's that
Yeah,
bright,
yeah.
super,
Flashy colors.
Exactly.
Colorful. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. We have about 15 minutes left, y'all. I know again that everyone's got a book here and everyone's got something that you'd like to tell everyone about. Unless we have any more questions, I'd like to do some go around the globe here and get some shout outs and some plugs because we all do amazing work. And so Al, let's hear from you first, man, because you've got a Kickstarter going for just like a few more hours. I put the link in the chat, but I'll do that again because it got buried.
Yeah, well, Orc Gym Book 1, which is the first issue of the 6 issues. 3 will come out this year, 3 next year. It's with Lethal Comics, which is the publishing imprint of Carl Kershaw and Andy Belanger. So there's less than 20 hours left for you guys.
12 hours left.
Getting 12 hours. Okay, good. So yeah, there's that. And today, Kaya number 6 by Wes Craig came out, and I have 4 pages in it, colored by my good friend Saint Jean. I'm really happy about this. And yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Sweet, man. Yeah, that book Kaya is amazing. It's so
Yeah.
cool that you have an ending, and it's beautiful and sweet, awesome fantasy. All right, let's head over to Emma. We all know about the Frank Miller books.
Stoneheart,
Yes.
Pandora,
So good. Pandora.
Radiant Pink. They're all coming out.
Where's the best place to follow you and to keep up, other than TikTok, which we all are following?
Oh, follow me on across all of social media. So I'm at Emma Kubert across all different handles, whether it's Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Facebook, on TikTok, so you can find me all on there. Stoneheart is a monthly ongoing series, so as long as there's an audience, I'm there to send you a comic. Pandora is continuing as also an ongoing series, and then Radiant Pink is coming to its 5-issue miniseries conclusion next month. The 4th issue just came out today, and same with the 3rd issue of Pandora. So I hope you guys have picked that up.
Nice. And
Congrats.
Stoneheart,
That's
you
really
say
cool.
from Image is just it's ongoing until
forever.
Yes.
Until forever. So ongoing as long as you guys are there, I'm there.
Until the animation project comes out, as long as you don't have to do it.
As long as I don't have to do it.
I hear that, man. All right. Hell yeah, dude. Let's continue around the horn. I got Manny next on here. So what you got going on? Where can we find you, bud?
You can find me on Instagram under underscore. I'd buy that for $1 underscore. I'm always posting about comics I'm buying and a lot of dollar comics. I'm co-hosting the Comic Lounge with Ryan Malcolm, and we do a couple episodes a week. And every Friday we have our weekly picks, so you can always catch that pretty regularly. And I've also been writing the latest arc of Relic Hunter with Adam Lemna, who is right there. And we have 2 pages that have been put out by Next Panel Press. And we'll be keeping working on that. And you can find my writing on the Comics Beat occasionally and on monkeysfightingrobots.com pretty often as well. I just had an interview with Ken Landgraf that came out this week. So yeah, that's what I like.
Freaking busy, Manny. Dang.
Yeah, try to stay busy.
Hell yeah. I just started a new feature on the Comic Lounge as well. We're going, I don't know if I should say it. I'll let Ryan announce it, but I'm excited.
I'm sure he'll be okay with it.
Kev, where can we find you, man? Oh, asked to unmute. I'll do the same for you, Sam.
Sorry, I'm eating popcorn. On Instagram, I'm solstice_art. On Facebook, it's my name backwards, Delgado Kevin. Twitter, it's Frigid Giant. And I got a TikTok, but I don't tick enough talks. So
Yet.
What about MySpace, everyone? I'm still waiting.
I still have a MySpace.
You're in my top 8.
Ah.
All right, thanks, dude. What about you, Sam?
I got this Transmigratory Adventures of Philip K. in the Land of the In-Betweeners. I'm on issue 3. I just finished Kickstarter, and I'm still finishing the colors in order to get that to the printer. I'm also doing this new thing on Next Panel Press. I was gonna try and simplify my style, but it still take me for fucking ever to do it. I'm really stoked on Gatekeepers of Edgelord City. It's like in this issue, there's this goth characters. They're all like musical genres that are also superheroes. It's kind of making fun of musicians in Seattle. And then there's this one other thing. If anyone's interested, we're still trying to recruit folks. Like in Always Sunny in Philadelphia tribute. We're kind of organizing on Facebook. There's a number of great talents. Trying to like maybe get some stuff going by June or July. So if anyone has any interest in 3 or 5 pages or something, either about the podcast or the show itself, and just making a smorgasbord.
Jeez, there's so many ways you could go with that.
Yeah. Right.
Well, shout out to listener Kevin Anthony Catalan. He's a big fan of them.
He's actually one.
He's already in it.
Contributors.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. All right, Rick. What about you, brother?
What's up, guys? Rick Lopez. You could find me on Instagram at Doomdazed. I do my strip on Next Panel Press. I do my series Cosmic Cat. We're just making it into our 3rd year of Next Panel Press. We have over a dozen different artists. You can binge a ton of different free comics in our story highlights for free. That's what I do every other week, but the main focus is still The Power. It's a 4-issue miniseries. It's about a boy creating a comic only to discover a realm beyond space and time within his own mind. Speaking of pitches. And the 3rd one is getting ready to come out. Just finishing up coloring that, and then I'm gonna send it off to the printer.
Yes.
And then again, make sure to go to ghostagents.net and go grab your copy of Ghost Agents, because this book is awesome. It's beautiful and it's in newsprint and super huge. And then go hit up Jerome Cabana 10 and go grab Tree versus Fox. This is my cover. There's a bunch of other people that did covers. Speaking of Kevin Catalan, his cover's down here. It's fucking awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Much love, Kevin. Thank you, dude.
Oh, I got my Granville right here.
Thanks, man.
All right,
and
next up,
Kevin Delgado.
Yeah, dude. Oh yeah. All right, next up, Tony Farrow, another killer, who's also working. Dude, I think like all of Next Panel Press is here. What up, Tony?
Yeah. I'm just about to get started working on a new thing for Next Panel Press, which is going to be really different from what you're used to seeing from me. I don't want to give away too much until I get at least a couple pages done, but that will be soon, because I just finished the 21st Century Big Spider number 4. Just finished it last night. So that was the story that you saw the preview of in Wizard number 2. So that story, which was started 2 years ago or whatever, it will finally be revealed, and it's very extreme. So that, yeah, I'm doing. So I've just finished that book, but I'm going to be doing Heroes Con this summer. So I'm thinking about holding off until then to publish it. I don't know. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
Wait?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I would wait. Well, right now I'm waiting for some pinups. I've sent out a call to get pinups from a bunch of different people. So I'm going to give them a little bit of time to do that. And if anybody hasn't seen my post, anybody is welcome to do that. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I'm really excited about this issue. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a lot of action, a self-contained story in one issue, and I think it's pretty fun. So that should be out soon. I don't know exactly when. Next couple months.
Nice. Yeah, highly recommend any of the 21st Century, a big spider books. They kill it.
Yeah,
Next,
and
Brandon. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead,
sorry.
Johnny.
I just wanted to mention too. I do have a collection of all the 21st Century Big Spider stuff. The first 3 issues, and then a bunch of other stuff that was never really published before. So I put that out a little while ago. And
you have
available.
like a trade?
Yeah, it's like 120 pages. It's got the 3 issues that were published, and then a whole bunch of other old stuff that was never published before. And I'm going to be doing an expanded edition of that once I get more pinups and stuff. So I'm going to include some more pinups in that, like not to the extreme, like Tales to Enlighten or anything like that, but a good chunk of pinups in there, So.
All right, I'm gonna get your link here. Is your Indie Planet? Is that where your store is?
No, it's Big Cartel. Rubberwolf.bigcartel.com.
Got it. Okay.
And and you can find me on Instagram at BigTony308 and on TikTok at Rubberwolf.
Sweet. Yeah, these are great books, man. All right, cool. Brendan, what about you? Brandon, sorry.
I'm Royal Brandon on Instagram. I got a bunch of books that are about to come out, but nothing announced yet. And I just did a Fortnite loading screen.
Oh yeah, Fortnite.
15-year-olds that play Fortnite.
Dude, and the Killer Turtles cover for the Dave Sim cover. The Dave Sim.
Our 11-year-old plays all the time, so he loves it.
He's back there. Hi, Elliot.
How you doing? Okay, join me.
Nice. All right. Sweet. Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, honored to have you here, man. Huge fan of your work, man.
Brendan, I didn't realize it was you, Brendan, that was talking to me at first. I wouldn't see your face. Like, I was just like, there's a guy, Brendan, asking me questions. And then I saw your face. I was like, oh, okay, it's Brendan Graf. So nice to meet you, by the way.
Yeah, it's weird to see you not working out.
Oh, I am. I wear this outfit that like keeps me look skinny. That's why, because I don't want to intimidate cartoonists,
You're wearing purple pants, aren't you? It's the only thing that interacts when you become the Gofa.
Right now, I'm not on a chair. I'm like actually doing a sitting still squat for like 2 hours. Like,
impressive.
Nothing.
I can't tell if you're serious or not. You look jacked. Never. All right, next up, Adam. What's up, dude?
Hey guys, I've got Relic Hunter, which is my book that I release bi-weekly pages on Next Panel Press. Manny is helping me write the second issue, but I'm releasing the first issue through Cosmic Lion with Eli. Hell yeah, it's super excited. And got some pages in Ghost Agents. So if you guys enjoyed that, I'm super excited. Obviously, go pick that up from Cosmic Lion. And I'm also a film editor, so I've got a film that's coming out called American Cherry, which is debuting on March 17th on Apple TV and Amazon Prime and Google and Vudu. And I just edited 2 episodes of 911, so those are on Fox, so you can watch that if you want to laugh and see some really bad melodramatic, funny stuff. Gosh, let's see. That's probably it, but it's really fun, and yeah, that's it for me.
Nice. Next up is Matt. I'm gonna send a mute request, and if anyone, I think let's get Dawn on here after I try to get you on earlier. Go for it, Matt. I asked to unmute you there.
You hear me or no?
Yeah, I do hear you, but
no. Tales to Enlighten #2 just came out. I know most people have got it already. It finishes up what we've been working on for the last 6 years, since 2017.
Damn.
But the continuing adventures of the sci-fi Jesus Christ with a flaming mutant fire-breathing cock. Everybody's gonna love it. You find me at King Megatrip 23 on Instagram or Tales to Enlighten on Instagram. And I know a couple of story artists in the room now. Tony Farrell, shout out. And I know Erwin Papa's lurking somewhere down there. I saw his name. Couple of pinup artists, Kevin Delgado, Samsonas, Adam Lemna hit us up last time, I believe, right?
Yeah, man.
And Kevin Catalan. I mean, all you guys, dude. So yeah, definitely. This has been fun. Thanks.
Hell yeah. Good to have you, man.
Thanks.
All right. I don't know if Donda can hear me or not, but anyway, dudes and lady, everyone, humans.
Yo, what up?
It's been
What up?
amazing. Yeah, there you are, Donda. What up, dude?
Oh, what's good, yo? What's good?
What you doing?
What am I doing? I am currently just drawing, chilling. I'm Donda Soze. You can catch me in the trap because I bees in the trap. Nah, I'm playing. You can catch me on Instagram at fucking what is it? At SuperTech FPV. At SuperTech FPV. That's SuperTech FPV. And you can check out 2 of my books, Fist of the New Lands and The Escapades of Paunchy Panda. You can pick those up at thesupertech.com. That is the SuperTech.com. And I appreciate your humble donations. And shout out to everybody that's up in here. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little laid up right now. I broke my ankle in Jamaica, so I'm just like drugged up in the crib. You know what I'm saying? So forgive me, guys, but shout out to everybody here. You know what I mean? I love coming on and hearing everybody talk. It gives me a little bit of energy to keep going and keep creating. So good luck, y'all.
Hell yeah, man. Good to hear from you, Donda.
Word up.
All right, y'all. Until next month, this has been New Comic Book Day Night Live.
Thanks to everybody for
coming.
coming.
Yeah, y'all. Thanks again.